Hello and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Kanishka Gupta and let's have a look at the stories for the day. IT major Infosys has warned its employees against taking up a second job, just days after Wipro chairperson Rishit Premji called it plain and simple cheating. While most IT firms discourage employees from taking up side jobs outside the regular working hours, some, like Swiggy or Cred, are encouraging it. So, in the next segment, we ask how can India Inc. stay ahead of the curve on moonlighting?
Moonlighting made headlines after food aggregator platform Swiggy in early August allowed employees to work on external projects for money or pro bono, subject to certain guidelines and restrictions. Moonlighting refers to employees taking up a second job or work assignments during normal work hours or outside them. Most companies in India prohibit staff from taking up additional jobs over concerns like conflicts of interest, job performance, or misuse of an employer's resources. The debate around moonlighting has divided the industry, drawing sharp reactions. Swiggy said a significant portion of the working population discovered new hobbies and perhaps even an activity that provides an additional source of income during the COVID-19 lockdowns. The company believes that working on such projects can significantly contribute to both the professional and personal development of an individual. But a few days later, on August 20th, Wipro chairman trashed the idea of moonlighting in the tech industry, calling it cheating, plain and simple. The trend caught up during the 2 years of the pandemic when work from home became a norm. A survey of 400 people across the IT and ITES space by Kotak Institutional Equities in July revealed that an astounding 65% of the respondents knew of people pursuing part-time opportunities or moonlighting while working from home.
In my view, it's going to be a hybrid work option, and that's going to be the future. Before COVID, many companies said that they will never allow their employees to work from home. More than moonlighting is right or not, I think we need to make sure everybody is open about it. And as long as I think everybody is transparent about it and there is a proper frameworks and governance in place, then we can all do something about it, correct? Today, I think the lack of that structure is why it gets probably done in a manner that is under the cover. As long as we put in a transparent set of policies, frameworks, right, it gives an opportunity for everybody to be open about it, correct? And then we can work it out depending on what the employees are wanting versus what the customers are wanting and what the IT companies are wanting to look at it, rather than be dismissive of any innovative option that comes up. How does it happen in the Silicon Valley in the US? And I'm sure the California labor laws are a lot more flexible than what we are probably looking at here.
But the IT industry is not convinced. Infosys on Monday sent an email to its employees reminding them that dual employment is not permitted under the company's employee handbook and code of conduct. Infosys also highlighted a clause from its offer letter which states that employees cannot take up such assignments without the company's consent. The IT major said that the consent may be given subject to any terms and conditions that the company may think fit and may be withdrawn at any time at the discretion of the company. No two-timing, no moonlighting, no double lives, the email proclaimed, adding that any violation of the clause may lead to termination. Will companies adopting moonlighting policies have an edge in attracting talent relative to those who bar it?
People who do or provide this option will find it easy to attract more people. And I think once it becomes an accepted norm, then if many of the companies don't give this as an option, that is going to be an inhibitor for them to attract more employees. Why do even large companies encourage internal crowdsourcing? That's because they want to provide an opportunity to some of the people who are happy to be more productive, who are happy to pick up more experience. So they're giving that as actually an employee benefit, right? Companies which do encourage it in a transparent manner, right, will have an ability to attract high-end talent. Many of the programmers even now are not wanting to come back, though I think many of the employers are wanting to ask all of their employees to come back to work. Many of them are not keen to work because they don't want to spend time 3 hours commuting, correct? So they are happy to be in their hometowns because they're more productive. So you're saving 3 hours in a day not commuting, and those 3 hours can be put to use in some manner, and you are enhancing your skills, and at the same time you're adding value, and of course it also adds to your compensation. I think that's why there is room for innovation, and I would say for all of us to be, I would say, just look at it more pragmatically.
Pune-based IT union, Knights, said the clause cited by Infosys in its mailer was arbitrary in nature and emphasized that what the employees do outside working hours is their prerogative. Tech Mahindra CEO CP Gurnani tweeted recently that it is necessary to keep changing with the times and that he welcomes disruption in the ways we work. He said that employees meeting their efficiency and productivity targets should be free to make the extra buck as long as there is transparency. India Inc. should see this as the right time to participate in the debate and be receptive to multiple perspectives, including those of the workforce.
While India's IT sector is a symbol of its post-liberalization success, brands like Campa-Cola, Chetak and YesD remind us of simpler times when we were not spoiled by choices and a mere sip of fizzy drink, a movie ticket or a motorcycle ride made us happy. Although these famous brands went extinct, the air is still thick with nostalgia. Companies are now trying to revive these classics. Will it work? Will the nostalgia turn into sales? Let's find out.
Campa-Cola, the iconic brand familiar to the aspirational India of 80s and 90s, has found a new parent in Reliance Industries. In a second innings of sorts, it is eyeing revenge, taking on Coca-Cola and Thumbs Up, the same brands that forced it out of the market. Campa-Cola might not strike a chord with the millennials, but it once dominated the soft drinks market. In the auto space, Java and its successor YesD have been revived. Bajaj would be bringing back its Chetak scooter in a new electric model. Luna's revival in an electric avatar is also on the cards. According to reports, Lohia Machines or LML is also looking for a comeback with a new line of electric vehicles by leveraging the erstwhile India manufacturing unit of Harley-Davidson. A common thread running through all the revived brands or the ones eyeing a comeback is nostalgia. Retro touch is a powerful business strategy and businesses use it as a marketing tool to get a head start. An old brand that once carried large consumer equity gives an edge in the market instead of building fresh equity for a new brand and starting from scratch. The revival of iconic brands is not new. On popular demand, Parle relaunched the Rola Cola brand in 2019, resembling the vintage red, blue and white packaging. How can one not talk about the revival of Volkswagen's most famous Beetle? Developed in the 1930s, the car saw its peak sales in the 1960s. Having lost its way in the 1970s, a revived version was launched in the 1990s. Nostalgia is a good way to make a head start, but does it turn into sales?
Nostalgia is a good starting point. It's a good way to rekindle memories of a past era, and brands have used it successfully. Starting point, there's no guarantee that nostalgia will bring in sales. But like I said, it's as opposed to starting from zero, you already have a set of consumers who are familiar with the brand, right? Not everyone understands change of ownership, but recognize a brand and they believe it brings back certain memories, certain values, certain thoughts, certain aspirations. So in that sense, nostalgia ensures a brand has a good takeoff. How it's sustained, what kind of sales it brings in, what kind of revenues it pulls is a function of the other things that the new brand owners can do, right? What kind of communication they put in, What are the new brand values? What are the product attributes? What is something that they can do to the brand? I think that will play a key role.
Revival of old brands is not that easy. If we look at the past experiences, only a few revival attempts have been successful. Volkswagen has pulled the plug again on Beetle as the speed waned even after revival. Santosh Desai, CEO of Future Brands, says very often revival of brands evoke initial interest, but sustaining it into long-term volumes is always a challenge. Unless a new cultural relevance is created and the product is appealing to the contemporary times, residual equity can only take you that far. Experts say the most important aspect of a brand revival is positive memories of the old brand. If we take the case of Campa Cola, Reliance, as part of its entry into the FMCG space, is trying to use vivid and fond memories of the brand to break into the market. Campa Cola lost out due to competition and its exit was not controversial and hence could exude some positive memories. However, Campa Cola was a symbol for aspirational modern India in the 80s, and in today's age, it might not be aspirational anymore. Hence, there may be a need for a different communication strategy to reconnect with the millennials. Further, for any brand revival that is dead, the brand value should have some connection with the current generation, and brand recollection value also helps. All these factors act as a good starting point, and then it all depends on how the brand is nurtured and taken forward.
The clear point is that nostalgia is not equal to sales. Why do I say it? I simply say it because when I look at the examples of brands which have been revived, heritage brands which have been gone after and revived, after a period of being off the rack, what really happens is sales is not returned. One of the key aspects is a complete due diligence and understanding of what that brand meant, what it represented, what its brand positioning was, and whether that brand positioning was correct for that generation or whether that's correct for today's generation. So if you ask me, it's extremely important for brand revival people to pay attention to brand positioning. Nothing is more important than brand positioning. When you brand position an old brand for a new market, there are 20 different things you need to do. So are you going to be attempting those 20 different things? That's the key question I'd like to ask maybe Campa Cola, because it's extremely important to ensure that whatever you launch is insight based. And this insight is today's insight, linking it umbilically back into the insight of those many years ago.
Using old brand equity as business strategy works, but only to a certain extent. This strategy alone might not bring bumper sales as seen in many cases. Due diligence, creative communication, and product attributes relevant to the current times are key. Understanding what the brand meant in older times and whether the brand positioning is appealing for contemporary times also helps.
Let us move on to markets now, as the Sensex flirts with the 60,000 mark and is merely 3% away from all-time high of 62,000 to 45.43. Is the bullish undertone here to stay? Well, Business Standard's Puneet Wadhwa spoke with Mark Matthews, Head of Research for Asia at Julius Baer, to understand what he makes of the current rally and whether the worst of inflation is behind us.
Hello, Mark, and welcome.
Hi, Puneet. Thank you very much for having me on your program today.
Let me start off by asking you, are the global equity markets out of the woods as when we talk about the fears of inflation and the correction that we saw a few months ago?
If we're talking about the world, I think yes. I think that inflation is broadly coming down. The largest driver of inflation was the oil price, and that fell again in August. But I would say that there are a few parts of the world where it's a structural problem. And of course, Europe is at the top of that list. Europe, however, is not, what drives the global economy, and therefore, I think we can say it has peaked. It is coming down.
What about Indian markets, Mark? Are they out of the woods as well? The Sensex is now flirting with the 60,000 mark again, quite close to its previous high now.
Among the markets, I think that India is one of the ones that surprised the most this year, because we have the S&P down about 15%, the dollar up even more than that so far this year, and interest rates rising. And India is only down in dollar terms, I think, about 5%. So it has outperformed even the US market in a time where, if you look back historically, times like this of rising rates and stronger dollar were usually when emerging markets underperformed. It's not the only one. Southeast Asian markets have held up very well this year. Brazil is actually up 15% in dollar terms. So I think India has been resilient and will continue to be.
So which in a sense also means that India will continue to outperform, even if it's in a fall or even if it's a bounce back. Is that what you mean to say?
I suspect it should, because already we've been in an environment which historically has been a big headwind for India, and yet it's outperformed. So if we go into an environment where people are worried about inflation and interest rate hikes less than they were for the beginning of this year, then I think it could do even better. And I suppose the reason would be that what's held the Indian market up so far has been local buying. And I think that if you get less worries over inflation and interest rates globally, there would be foreign money allocating to India as well.
So by when do you think that is going to happen in a meaningful way? We've seen foreign flows started to trickle in, but then one, is it sustainable? And two, when do they actually pick up pace and go all out to put money back into Indian markets?
Yes, I don't know. All I can say is that we see the inflation rate only coming down gradually. It's currently at 8.5% in the US headline CPI. We're looking for about 6% by the beginning of next year, and then dropping down to about 5% during the summer, 4% toward the end of next year. So that's hardly a big collapse. And therefore, just extrapolating that trajectory, perhaps the inflow into India won't be just this black and white, but a very slow change as well, which I think we might have seen the beginning of, because inflows were positive, correct me if I'm wrong, into India in August.
Correct. So the local institutions as well as retail investors who stayed put through the FI sell-off could now see, do you think that they could now see, profit booking as the markets start to rise gradually?
Well, I can't really speak on behalf of local fund managers. They might feel they've already made a very good profit, but I wouldn't if I were them, because to my mind, the Indian story is a structural one. There's actually two components to it. So the first is the domestic economy, I believe, has entered into a strong economic upcycle that should last around 2 or 3 years, driven by capex from the private sector. And the second reason would be external. China is a market which is really in a structural downtrend now, and its economy as well. This isn't a cyclical thing that's going on in China, it's a structural thing. And China being more than 3 times the size of India, there was a very large pool of money that allocated pretty much exclusively to China among emerging markets over the last, let's say, 5 years, up until 2021. And it will be looking for other places. India is right at the top. It's one of the largest emerging markets. It's true that Taiwan and Korea are larger, but let's face it, they're not really emerging markets. They're classified as emerging markets for technicalities, but they're very developed economies and very technology centric. So sorry to ramble on, but I think those twin forces of a very strong domestic economy and foreign funds looking to allocate to emerging markets outside of China would be reasons to expect the Indian market to continue to rise over time.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for your time.
After the markets, let us shift our focus to the country's health sector. Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia released the National List of Essential Medicines 2022, comprising 384 medicines on Tuesday. Why does the government come out with this list? Which medicines make it to this list? Let's find out. National Pharmaceuticals Pricing Authority (NPPA), a government regulatory agency that controls the prices of medicines in India, comes out with a list every 3 years. Through the National List of Essential Medicines or NLEM, the regulator fixes a cap on the prices of essential medicines so that they are affordable and widely available to everyone. This list was framed on the lines of the Essential Medicines List (EML), released by the World Health Organization. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare released the first NLEM in 1996. It contained 279 medicines. The subsequent revised list came in 2003, which had 354 medicines. In 2011, the list was again revised and had 348 medicines. In 2015, the last time the list was revised, it contained 851 medicines. It was decided that it would be revised every 3 years. And on Tuesday, the government came out with a fresh list. It added 34 and removed 26 drugs from the NLEM. Several antibiotics, anti-diabetes, and anti-infectives have been included in the list. Several factors are looked at before including a drug in the NLEM. According to the regulations, the drug must be critical and essential for curing a disease. Also, disease burden is considered an essential factor. At one point, TB might be more important to tackle. At the next moment, another disease like COVID-19 may become more important. The medicine must have unequivocal evidence of efficacy and wider acceptance based on its safety to be included in the list. The NLEM guidelines state that the total price of the treatment must be considered while including the drug in NLEM. Only unit price may not be the best benchmark for this. The single-dose medicines are considered for inclusion in NLEM. FDCs are only included if they have a proven advantage concerning the therapeutic effect. Also, the decision must not be taken solely based on high sales turnover. A drug is deleted from the list if it gets banned in India. Also, it is removed if reports of concerns about drug safety emerge. If a better, more cost-effective medicine is available in the market, it can be replaced on the list. Another criterion for deletion is the change in the country's disease burden.
I will achieve, I will fly high. SBI.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
Union Minister Mandavia has tweeted that several antibiotics, vaccines, anti-cancer drugs will become cheaper now. That is all for today. For more news, views and insights, visit business-standard.com. If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views, and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, and LinkedIn.